Opportunity to get rich in 2025. The 9 Purple Fire Fate. Heaven is fair. In the next 20 years, there will be a completely new group of people chosen by heaven. Then, whether in making money, investing, career, life, or relationships, they can easily achieve what they desire. Such people are very suitable for advancing, accumulating resources and wealth. Conversely, those who previously found everything easy. Have you started feeling powerless around 5 years ago? Because our major fate cycle is preparing to shift from the 8th fate, Earth, to the 9th fate, Fire. During this 5-year transition period, for example, from the trade war in 2018 to the pandemic in 2020, then to the wars and disasters afterwards, all these calamities are actually a warning, reminding you that in the next 20 years, you must be cautious every step, protect what you have, or do jobs that align with the trend, relying on the luck of those at the peak of the trend, rather than continuing to rely solely on yourself. Fortune-telling welcomes you all. These words are absolutely not meant to scare. The Jewish people have a wealth-building Bible called the Talmud, that is their faith. Just relying on this book, their capitalists have dominated the world's wealth. Chinese culture is equally profound. They also have a book called the I Ching, Book of Changes, and another divine book called Tui Bei Tu, Push-Back Chart. It's just that very few of us bother to read these books because, somehow, these two divine books are often used for feng shui, metaphysics, and the like. Besides, there are too many fake fortune tellers in the market, so these two precious books are often labeled as feudal superstition. For example, I once bought a house for my parents. Then, a relative from my father's hometown, with good intentions, asked an old lady knowledgeable in the I Ching to take a look. The result was she said this house had a murder involving the previous owner, causing my parents anxiety. But the problem is, the house I bought was brand new, just built. Worse still, she seemed to have supernatural abilities, being able to draw such conclusions without knowing my address. So I sought out a master whom I always trusted and truly understood the I Ching. I invited him to my house to help rearrange things. The result was that in that year, not only did I earn more money, but I also had more opportunities to buy real estate that I previously couldn't afford for rental purposes. The rental income also soared, giving me a more stable source of passive income. Therefore, the problem doesn't lie in those two divine books, but in the interpreter and how we filter information. Remember, don't blame your fate for being bad, because having good fortune doesn't guarantee a good life forever. Many people hold a good hand of cards but play it terribly. There are also countless people like my former self, starting with nothing but eventually being able to defy fate and lack nothing. But the premise is that we must understand destiny, understand the times, and do what is most beneficial for ourselves. That's also why, every year before the Lunar New Year, I reopen the I Ching and Tui Bei Tu. Most people, when interpreting these two books, only know how to recount past stories, meaning only after events happen do they say the books are effective. But today, I will reveal the celestial secrets of the next 20 years to you. I only hope this valuable information can reach the destined people who have always supported me. If just 1 or 2 sentences in it are useful to you, I am already satisfied. My channel specializes in sharing wealth-building mindsets for entrepreneurs, investors, and the wealthy. If you don't want to miss the next useful information, you can consider subscribing to the channel, turning on the notification bell. And the first, most important thing is that you must clearly understand your own destiny, May. For example, I was born in winter. My Bazi, 4 pillars of destiny, chart shows that my 5 elements lack fire. I am averse to fire. Yet I need fire, because only when fire is prosperous do I prosper. I know the next 20 years are the fire fate. So basically, I will encounter great fortune. Thus I will choose to attack. I will strive to the end, push to the limit, regardless of the consequences. But if you don't know your 5 elements are averse to fire, fear fire, then in the next 20 years, you won't know how to defend. If you attack recklessly, you might lose everything you had before, even fall into debt. However, you can also find people compatible with fire to cooperate with. I'll talk about this later. If today you, like me, are compatible with fire, why am I doing better than you? It's because I know to go south for development, while you stay in the north. South belongs to the fire element. North belongs to water, east is wood, west is metal, and the center is earth. I know these things, but you don't. My profession is related to fire, while yours might be related to water. So our lives are completely different. I make money, you don't. It's not because you lack ability, but because if I went north to do your job, I couldn't do it either. Therefore, you must know what your boss's 5 elements are compatible with and averse to. Is the major trend of the future favorable to you or not? What if the future fire fate is not beneficial to me? Don't worry, there are solutions. You just need to be patient and listen to the end. First, the Tui Bei Tu book I mentioned earlier was once a banned book. Why? Because it not only successfully predicted events many times, but even if you knew the outcome of the prophecy, you couldn't change anything. For example, during the Tang dynasty, it predicted that Wu Zetian could usurp the throne from the Li family. At that time, Emperor Taizong of Tang, Li Shimin, knew this clearly and intended to order Wu Zetian's execution but was stopped. Why? Because if Wu Zetian were killed, another person with a similar fate but even more brutal would appear. Then the Li family would not only lose the empire but might also face extinction. Later, other prophecies in this book also came true one by one, including events like the Empress Dowager belonging to the direct line, the Pacific War, the Japanese invasion of China, etc. That's why this book was banned for a long time, because it affected the fate of nations. Whether you believe those past events or not is up to you. You can find materials to verify yourself because the focus now is on what Tui Bei Tu says from 2024 onwards. The verse says, "The black rabbit enters the green dragon's lair. Wanting peace but unable to speak. Only the outsiders and scholars remain. For 30 years, descendants prosper." A simple interpretation is this. The black rabbit symbolizes the year of the Gui Mao, water rabbit, 2023. Entering the lunar year 2024. The rabbit in our country, Vietnam uses cat, is already weak in the food chain. And being a black rabbit makes it even weaker. Such a weak rabbit entering the lair of a green dragon, Qing Long Shui, is like walking into a tiger's den. It already implies entering without exit. Now stepping into the dragon's lair. What will happen? Wanting to advance but unable to speak is useless. What should I say? Better not to say anything. The meaning is, moving from 2023 to 2024. Many people think, everything will get better. All the negative news has been released. Now is the time to act, rise, and develop. But they have great ambitions without real strength. Some things you thought were over refuse to end, leading to a widespread feeling of helplessness. And the only way out is that you yourself and your career must step out. Must expand. Only then will future generations have results. It sounds vague, but if combined with the knowledge of yin-yang and the 5 elements, our perspective becomes much clearer. From 2024 onwards, we will move from the earth fate into the fire fate. Simply put, the world will enter a phase influenced by stars belonging to the fire element. This means industries previously related to earth will weaken, while those related to fire will strengthen. A typical example is housing. Many people without much money want to buy houses. Seeing prices adjust, they immediately jump in. This is the image of the black rabbit entering the green dragon's lair. Because they can't afford houses in central areas or major cities. They can only buy in suburban areas or small cities. Many young people work for a few years and want to lie flat. Return to their hometown. Buy a cheap garden house to rest and retire. But I've said before, humans always pursue a better life. As the population decreases, people will increasingly concentrate in central areas, called the egg yolk area, and large cities to live. Because there are more resources and amenities there. Therefore, suburban areas, small cities, called the eggshell, will have no one wanting to buy houses anymore, leading to a sharp drop in real estate value. That's why I always say, only in major cities does real estate value truly exist. In the next 20 years, house prices will not rise evenly but will only increase in certain areas. I believe the future will see many people rushing to speculate on real estate. Because in many countries, housing policies in central areas have been significantly relaxed to stimulate the economy. For example, previously only one house could be bought. Now buying is unlimited. Previously taxes were levied. Now taxes might be exempted or reduced. Previously borrowing was limited. Now more can be borrowed. Added to this is the U.S. Federal Reserve adjusting monetary policy. This will attract many real estate speculators. And speculative real estate investment is a fire element activity, not earth. The nature of fire is fast, buy fast, sell fast, that is fire behavior. But remember, this good news only benefits central areas. The egg yolk. Not everywhere will see people rushing to buy. Previously, when house prices rose, central areas increased first, then the suburban, egg white, and outer, eggshell, areas followed. But later, that situation might no longer exist. Therefore, although fire generates earth, real estate won't be bad. But it won't be good everywhere either. But not everything can be bought. One must buy things with speculative properties, meaning assets in the egg yolk area sought after by many. Additionally, industries previously related to the earth element, such as cooking, interior decoration, antiques, real estate, etc., also need caution. Before, just putting in a little effort in these industries could earn quite a bit of money. Because the 20 years before 2024 was the Earth fate period. So these industries were aligned with the trend. But in 2025, if you are just starting in those industries, it won't be easy to make money anymore. However, that doesn't mean it's impossible. Just harder than before. And if your industry is related to the water or metal element, for example, selling water, swimming coaching, seafood, laundry, singing, finance, civil service, then entering the fire fate in 2025, these industries will find it even harder to make money because they go against the trend. Therefore, if you are unsure which element your industry belongs to, you must research carefully. Don't let yourself become the black rabbit entering the green dragon's lair, looking strong but being dangerous. Unless that job can incorporate the fire element. For example, allowing speculation, short-term trading, rather than long-term investment, like stocks. If you want to hold a stock for over 10 years in the current unstable context, you could very well lose everything. For example, I heard someone teaching stock investment, called a teacher, telling people to hold Tesla stock long-term just because Tesla cars have a range of over 600 kilometers while Porsche only has over 300 kilometers. The result is that after 8 years, Tesla stock dropped 41%. You invest 10 million, lose over 4 million. So how can you hold long-term? But if you know how to capture the upward trend of a stock. For example, Nvidia stock breaking the $283 threshold. If you bought at that exact moment, then in just over half a year, without doing anything, that stock increased 1.5 times. Meaning, put in 10 million, take out 25 million. So although stocks belong to the metal element, as long as you speculate, you can still profit very well. However, the risk cannot be ignored. Many people advise holding stocks for 10 years because 10 years later, you won't find them anymore. They don't need to take any responsibility towards you. Back to fate. 40 years ago when entering the metal fate, the banking industry thrived. Ordinary people just needed to work in a bank to easily make money. But later, when shifting to the earth fate, banking business started becoming difficult. So banks incorporated the earth element to do business. For example, starting to develop the mortgage lending segment. As real estate developed rapidly, banks also made money accordingly. And now, as fate shifts from earth to fire, if banks want to continue making money, they must also incorporate the fire element. Among them, the first relates to speculation, a fire element factor. Additionally, online banking, digital banking also belong to fire. Therefore, the first thing you need to know is that from 2024 onwards, meaning 2025, we enter 20 years of the Lee fire fate. On a macro level, war is a fire element factor. And it's often the weak challenging the strong because the black rabbit enters the green dragon's lair. The result is wanting to advance but unable to speak, meaning politics will continue to be unstable. On a personal level, we humans will also become more hot-tempered, prone to conflict. Interpersonal conflicts will easily explode. And many people will use violence to solve problems. Remember, the second pitfall in 2025 is the fighting trap. Unless that fight can attract public attention and increase media traffic for you. Otherwise, fighting is just an expense. Just like investment losses. Honestly, the person being beaten, when going to the hospital for injury assessment, Might even be thinking about what car they'll buy, at least a Porsche or Audi. Nothing less. Nowadays, fighting is no longer about fists but about money. For example, me, previously, a small boss went bankrupt. I kindly let him work in my company. Even when he lacked confidence. I invited him on company trips. Even lent him money. But he wasn't grateful. When work became difficult, he complained, affecting the morale of the whole company. Even badmouthing management behind their backs. Ungrateful. Such people I just fire. No matter how he provoked afterwards. I wouldn't argue with him. Let alone get physical. Why? Outsiders might think I'm weak. But actually, my time is very valuable. If I choose to argue with him, I'm missing opportunities to make money. If 1 hour of my time is worth $10, then a day is at least $80. And people like him will be taught a lesson by others outside anyway. So why should I do it myself? If he doesn't pay money, let the law handle it. I might suffer financial loss, but consider it paying for a lesson in judging character. So after I thought it through, I was no longer angry. And even if someone hits you, remember you absolutely must not hit back. Because as soon as you react, the nature of the incident changes. If someone hits you and you hit back, it becomes a brawl. And once identified as a brawl, not only will they be arrested, but you will also be dragged in. Totally not worth it. Therefore, besides controlling your own temper, you should also learn a few moves to protect your head. I'm joking a bit with this sentence. What I really want to say is that in such circumstances, there is actually a money-making opportunity. Because entering the 20-year ninth fate cycle, everyone easily becomes hot-tempered, impulsive, restless inside, and feels powerless about many things. Especially now. Many people have started becoming immune to material things. They just want to lie at home, don't want to go out. Becoming reclusive men and women. Not communicating, not spending. And this is the group of young people. The group with the strongest spending power. Why is that? Because they realize effort is futile. No matter how hard they try, they cannot overcome the power of capital, nor match those born rich. The second generation wealthy. So they start lying flat. No longer competing. Precisely at this time, people will start focusing on cultivation, inner training, paying attention to energy, spirit, faith, because only then can humans stop suffering. In other words, if your industry or business is related to body, mind, spirit, or has elements of spiritual civilization, it will be very easy to make money. I'm not necessarily saying you have to become a psychologist or meditation coach. But what I mean is, add spiritual elements into your current work. Very simple. For example, today you sell clothes, produce Japanese or European style clothing, etc. Honestly, even if you stop producing now and all clothing companies on Earth stop production, the amount of clothing already produced is enough for humanity to wear for about 200 years. Meaning material goods are that redundant. So if you continue selling clothes, you are playing a game where supply far exceeds demand. But there will be a few people who know how to sell clothes on a spiritual level. If I sold clothes, I wouldn't sell like before. I must add the fire element, the spiritual element. In other words, repackage the product. For example, you feel irritated, hot-tempered, conflicted, harmed by petty people, isolated by colleagues, have no friends? It's because you haven't awakened. Because you are living in your shell. So, if there's an undershirt that has been blessed, has talismans and magical power, you wear it when sleeping and also when working, you will absorb the energy within. This shirt not only helps stabilize your inner self, prevent petty people, but can also be custom designed according to your hair, temperament, from style to color, helping you attract wealth or love depending on what you need. Would you want to buy such a shirt? I'm just giving a fun example. But remember, don't talk about your clothes being beautiful, keeping warm well, or protecting from the sun anymore. In the next 20 years, the thing you need to solve is not material problems but the spiritual problems of humans. Another example. Previously Haidilao was very famous for its noodle dance. Do you know why a brand just selling hot pot like Haidilao could expand from China to the whole world and even list on the stock exchange? Of course, hot pot belongs to the fire element. But if you really want to eat an authentic hot pot, you wouldn't think of Haidilao, just going to Chongqing. You can find a place much more authentic. So why was Haidilao so successful? Because they sell not just hot pot, but spiritual culture. They make you feel respected. Drinks you can drink freely. Fruits you can eat as you like. Eating shrimp, someone even peels it for you. You can get manicures, watch dance performances. On your birthday, someone even organizes a celebration for you. All of that is completely free. Doesn't cost a cent but comes with a whole team providing attentive service. Therefore, what they sell is not the hot pot, but a feeling, an experience, a place that makes you feel relaxed and cared for. Understand this? So today, it's not about saying that entering the fire fate means if you are selling gold, you have to close shop. It's not like that. Whatever you are doing, continue doing it, as long as it's something you love, can leverage your strengths. It's still doable. Just add the fire element, meaning elements related to tradition, spread, spiritual culture, or elements that can be hyped, creating effects. Additionally, the third factor to consider is the group of middle-aged women. The ninth fate, accurately speaking, is 9 purple Li fire, and Li symbolizes middle-aged women. Those aged 25 to 55. You will be surprised to see that in the next 20 years, women will gradually become stronger than men. Before, why were men the pillars of the family? Because they had strength, rational thinking, could work and earn money to support the family. But have you noticed? In the last 5 years, the industries easiest to make money in are mostly industries where women earn more than men. For example, being KOLs, key opinion leaders, live streamers, video creators, even the best salespeople or national-level negotiators are predominantly women. In other words, in the future, we men, besides loving our wives, clinging tightly to their legs, when doing business, the target customer group should also prioritize women, because they are the most powerful consumer group in the next 20 years. Very simple. Take opening a fitness class. Before, anyone who registered paid and was taught. But now, I only teach middle-aged women because they need to maintain their figure for live streaming or because they are female leaders, often sitting in offices and prone to weight gain. So I only focus on this female customer group for training, when their spending power is higher and I am the specialist serving this group. Once they want to work out, they will definitely choose me first, because I understand and suit them better than any other coach. Being more professional, my service and my fees can also be higher. When my company hires people, I will also prioritize hiring girls aged 25 to 55 because they are more likely to succeed. I want to borrow their luck. The fourth factor relates to industries that are anonymous and virtual. For example, before you sold insurance, houses, cars, travel tours, but you adopted a Buddhist style, meaning sitting and waiting for customers, relying on referrals, waiting for the company to assign clients. But have you realized customers are getting fewer now? Have you noticed even if you get clients, they don't close deals with you? Why? Essentially, because customers today are no longer offline. Even if you meet customers offline, they don't trust you because you have no reputation, no brand. But have you ever thought? YouTube currently has about 2.5 billion users. If each person just gives you $1 to buy your product or service, wouldn't you instantly have 2.5 billion overnight? And if you haven't reached that, only have 10,000 followers, you open a restaurant and let each person pay you 100 units profit. You already have 1 million. Any industry can be combined with self-media, adding the fire element. More importantly, you must think about how to make money from the first day you start. Think about how to turn it into profit. So you say the poor aren't hardworking? The poor might even be more hardworking than the rich. Every era has opportunities. It's just that we must constantly change. In this fire fate period, even if you don't work in a fire-related industry, you still need to add the fire element. First is spread, going viral, creating effects. Second is spiritual culture. Third is the middle-aged women group. Fourth is personal media and the internet. Of course, some will say, are your words trustworthy? Is this era so superstitious? Let me ask you, is there any tycoon who, when building a 5-star hotel, building an office, or even just finding a location, doesn't find a feng shui master to look it over? I don't know if you believe it or not, but Li Ka-shing believes. Jack Ma believes. Even foreign entrepreneurs believe. So why shouldn't I believe? Actually, I didn't believe before either. But I discovered something. Usually, those without money are the ones who don't believe. And I wanted to become rich. So I started believing. I don't know if it's truly effective or not, But I believing, I found there was no loss. Conversely, it made me increasingly lack no money. I only believe in results. And the result is that my destiny has changed unimaginably. Due to time constraints, I will end the video here. I share free knowledge on how to become rich, entrepreneurs, investors, and achieve financial freedom. If you don't want to miss out, follow my channel, turn on the notification bell, and share this video widely. I sincerely wish all brothers and sisters who liked this video achieve financial freedom soon. If in today's video, you find just 1 or 2 useful sentences that help you live better, then I am already satisfied.